Hey, what's up guys? It's Matt with the Movement System. In this video, we're gonna cover the 5 levels of vertical jump training. We'll cover exactly how to train if you're a level 1 beginner, all the way up to a level 5 professional athlete. Each level has a specific workout that you can follow, so stick around to see which one fits your training the best. Let's go and get started with level 1, the beginner. At this stage, we're building a base with low intensity plyometric movements. The goal of a beginner is to improve tendon stiffness, landing mechanics, and overall jump efficiency before moving into more advanced methods. So here's what a training session will look like for a beginner. With all of these examples, you'll want to start with a dynamic warm-up, some skips, some dynamic stretches, open up the hips. But for this video, I'm just gonna jump right into the plyometrics. So for level 1, you're gonna start with 3 sets of jump rope for 60 seconds. Focus on being smooth and steady here. If you don't have a jump rope, that's all right. Just pretend you're jumping rope with small jumps and it will be just as effective. After that, we're gonna be moving into 5 different plyometric exercises, and you're gonna wanna do 20 reps each for a simple, effective beginner session. First is going to be lateral line hops. We're gonna want 20 reps of these total, small jumps side to side, back and forth over a line. From there, we're gonna move into the 2 forward, 1 back pogo jumps. So this is gonna involve 2 pogo jumps forward, 1 back, 2 forward, 1 back for a total of 20 jumps. From there, we're gonna move into a deep pulse squat. So this is not just going to be a pulse squat in the bottom position, but actually a little bit more plyometric where we're actually jumping out of that deep squat position. Again, 20 repetitions here. From there, working into just a little bit of single leg work, working on a hopscotch jump, going from 2 foot to 1 foot, 2 foot to 1 foot. We're looking for a total of about 20 repetitions here as well. And then the last move, looking for 20 repetitions of lateral bounds, or what you might know as skaters. This is gonna involve jumping side to side, landing on one leg, and actually absorbing force and bending into that knee. Focus on soft landings here. And honestly, that's it. It's a very basic beginner workout. You're gonna wanna do this type of workout every other day for about 2 to 4 weeks to get your body started with plyometrics. These lower intensity plyometric movements are called extensive plyometrics. And this phase of extensive plyometrics prepares your body for the more explosive and maximal jumps by reinforcing good mechanics, tendon strength, and endurance early on. So it is important to build this foundation to avoid injury from skipping right ahead to the advanced training methods that we're gonna see in the next levels. Okay, but now let's move on to level 2. At this stage, we're gonna add in more intense plyometrics and also some basic strength exercises. So here's the level 2 training session. Basically, the extensive work from level 1 is now your warm-up. You can switch up the exercises if you want to, but I think it's still good to start with 3 minutes of jump rope and then 20 reps each of 5 different extensive plyometrics. Now, in addition to that, here's what we're gonna add. We're gonna add some low to high jumps. For example, 20 reps of this low to high pogo jump. This is a great intermediate exercise to introduce some higher level jumps without full on repeat hurdle hops that we'll see later on. From there, you're gonna go into maximal broad jumps, 3 sets of 3 repetitions. With these, just try to cover as much distance as you can, reset each rep so you're getting 9 really good high quality maximal horizontal jumps. Also in this level 2, we want to see some strength training, so I like to introduce the trap bar deadlift for about 4 sets of 5 reps, focusing on explosive intent and lifting the bar as fast as possible. And this is important because developing strength gives you more potential to express force with your jumping. You still have to do the jumps though to produce force fast, but again, strength gives you that higher ceiling. Overall, this level 2 training will get you a good basic foundation with both plyometric and strength work. But now let's go ahead and move on to level 3. And at this level, we'll really get into more reactive strength. A key concept for this level of training is the stretch shortening cycle, basically training how our tendons store and release energy. We want quick ground contact times while still applying maximal force. So here's what a level 3 training session will look like. A dynamic warm-up and then just 50 reps of extensive plyometrics. For example, 25 reps of this crossover bound, training your ankle to be efficient in different positions, crossing the midline of the body. Also 25 reps of a split stance jump, focusing on being smooth out of the hole here, not maximal height, but just being smooth for 25 reps. Then you'll want to move into your intensive or your maximal jumps. Here in level 3, I like power skips for 3 by 30 yards or the length of a basketball court. Focus on a big explosive skipping pattern driving the opposite knee and arm. From there, we're gonna go to 3 sets of triple broad jump. So instead of just doing a jump and then resetting, we're gonna connect 3 jumps in a row in this case. So we're gonna do 3 jumps in a row, 3 times, and then do 3 sets of that. From there, going into your hurdle hops. In this case, instead of doing that low to high jump, it's gonna be high jumps, reactive, back to back over hurdles. And we wanna shoot for about 3 sets of 5 reps here. You want these hurdles to be high enough to be challenging, but not so high that they're gonna cause you to break your form. And then our last plyometric movement at this level is gonna be depth jumps, just 1 set of 5 repetitions, stepping off of a box and then immediately jumping as high as possible. At this level, we also need to be taking strength training more seriously, so we're gonna do a more complete strength training session here with heavy split squats, 4 sets of 3 at around 80 to 90% of your maximum. You can actually superset that with a single leg kettlebell RDL. This will help with your balance and your ankle stability. And then once you complete that superset, you're gonna go to a superset between hip thrusts and calf raises. Both of those movements, we can just load them heavy and challenging at 3 sets of 8 repetitions. And this type of training session is more of a serious athlete training session. This phase is where you would separate yourself from a casual lifter or someone who's just kind of dabbling in the athlete training methods. You're training the elastic properties of your muscle and your tendon, and you're also training for that higher force potential. And before we get into level 4, a quick word from our sponsor, OVR Performance. I've been using the OVR jump to test ground contact time with about 50 different plyometric movements. A common mistake with plyometric training is only including exercises with long ground contact times greater than 1/4 of a second. For example, depth jumps and box jumps with ground contact times around 0.4 seconds. So it's important to also include movements like pogos or single leg low hurdle jumps with shorter ground contact times less than 0.25 seconds. This trains the fast stretch shortening cycle. Basically, including both will help you make progress more efficiently than just one or the other. Also, the OVR jump is the best way to reliably and affordably test your vertical jump at home. This gives you a way to monitor fatigue and also track your progress over time to make sure that your training is actually effective. This is a really cool piece of technology, and I especially like how you can set them up about 9 yards apart and do bounds or hops in between them, measuring ground contact time. This is something that you couldn't even do with jump mats or force plates because of their small surface area. Overall, for less than $300, this is a great tool for coaches and athletes that can help you make more progress with your plyometric training. So thanks to OVR Jump for sponsoring this video. You can get your OVR Jump through the link in the description below to support our channel and the research that goes into these videos. Okay, now let's move on to level 4. And in this level, we're gonna start using contrast sets. This is where we do a heavy lift immediately followed by an explosive movement. This enhances neural drive and maximizes your force output. The science behind this is that the strength exercises requires a lot of neuromuscular recruitment. Contrasting or going back and forth between that heavy strength explosive jump utilizes what's called post-activation potentiation, making your nervous system fire harder and faster after the heavy strength movement. This can help you jump higher and feel a lot more explosive through your training session. So for this training session, we can start with just one extensive movement, a pogo jump to a split squat, and we can just do this for 3 sets of 30 seconds to warm up. From there, we can go into a trap bar deadlift, 3 sets of 3 reps at 85% of 1 rep max. After the end of that set, wait about 10 to 20 seconds and then get right into depth jumps, 3 sets of 3 reps. So for the heavy trap bar deadlift and the depth jump, just 3 reps each, alternating back and forth for 3 sets total. From there, we're gonna move into another contrast pairing, specifically heavy split squat jumps for 3 sets of 5 repetitions, supersetted with maximal bounding for 3 sets of 20 yards. With these contrast pairings, you want to make the movements biomechanically similar, meaning that for a vertical trap bar deadlift, we wanted to superset that with a vertical plyo. And then for the split squat, we're gonna pair that with bounding. Utilize a double arm swing here, covering as much ground as possible. From there, we can move into approach jumps, and we're just gonna do a total of 10 repetitions. You want an external target to aim for here, like a vertex stick if possible, or just even a mark on the wall can work. You'll probably notice that this training session is not very high volume overall. At this level, most athletes are training quite frequently with a lot of explosive lifts, but not with that much volume per session. However, if you are only training 2 or 3 times a week, then you can add to this training session. All right, but now let's move on to level 5, pro level training. And really what makes the biggest difference here is that at this stage, we want to individualize to specific goals or deficits to train like elite jumpers. Here are some ways that we can individualize our training. One would be to look at single leg stability. Athletes should have good single leg strength and also good single leg landing mechanics. You may be surprised how many high level athletes still struggle with a basic exercise like a single leg step down from a box. If this is the case, it's actually important to include some single leg stability exercises in the training program. That can be just a loaded version of that single leg step down or step ups, or even step ups to a knee raise. Other athletes though may have limited range of motion, for example at the ankle. So individualization for some athletes may involve incorporating dorsiflexion stretching or other ankle mobilization techniques. And then the third way to individualize for high level training is trying to balance between strength and speed work. Some athletes are so fast and elastic, but they sort of max out their potential because they're not that strong. In that case, then we want to bias our training towards more strength. Other athletes are the opposite. They're pretty strong, but they haven't hit their potential, and we need to bias more speed and velocity-based training techniques. It's also important to mention that elite athletes don't necessarily need more plyometric training volume than an average athlete. In fact, at the very high level, they often actually need less. That's because if they're really athletic, they're jumping high, they're taking a lot of impact from it. Some of the top strength conditioning coaches in the world, training Olympians, recommend only about 40 to 60 total jumps per training session for really high level athletes. So overall, level 5 will be very similar to level 4, but taking that individualized approach. Some ways that you could do that, for example, might be to choose a pin squat rather than a trap bar deadlift. This can help athletes who are already really strong really dial in speed-based adaptations at the top of the rep, where you don't usually get that much overload. It's pretty common with very high-level sprinters as well as high-level jumping athletes. Also, your depth jumps are likely going to need to be from a higher box height, since you want the height of the depth jump to be greater than the athlete's vertical jump. So it's not uncommon for athletes at a very high level to be doing depth jumps from 40 or even 42 inches. The most intense single leg version of a plyometric is actually a single leg hop, so we might choose to progress from bounding to single leg hopping at this level. So overall, our level 5 workout could, for example, include some ankle mobilization, a little bit of extensive work with that pogo to split squat, and then heavy split squat paired with single leg hopping. From there, sticking with our 10 maximal approach jumps, and then potentially adding some supplemental strength work to work on specific deficits. For example, 2 sets of 8 reps of a hamstring curl and a calf raise. And then if we do want to round this out with some conditioning, we can add sled pushes with body weight resistance for around 4 sets of 20 yards. Focus on these being explosive and fast with about 30 seconds of rest in between each. So overall, this is just one example of how I've structured plyometric training for different levels of athletes that I've worked with. Some of the key concepts being moving from that extensive preparatory work to more intensive and maximal jumps as the athlete gets more developed. Also keeping an appropriate amount of strength for the individual athlete. So now that you know the 5 levels of vertical jump training, drop a comment below on what level you're currently at and what you need to work on. Hopefully this video gave you some ideas for what to add to your own training. And if you are looking for a vertical jump training program to follow, we have one linked in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.